Okay, we are back with our regular programming here. Welcome back to it, everyone. I believe it was on my Tragically Hip video. One of my new subscribers said, could you do a Sloan video at one point? And I think I've said this in other videos, but I usually have like 20 different ideas for videos, and kind of a pre-established list of what I want to do in the near future. And Sloan's always been somewhere down on the list, and I always really wanted to do a Sloan video, but for whatever reason I didn't. And just that suggestion alone made me go, yeah, okay, it's time. Like, let's do Sloan. If someone wants to see it, then definitely gonna do it. Sloan, of course, is from Halifax, of all places, and they've been based out of Toronto ever since the early to mid 90s. They formed in 91, so they've been together forever. They've become kind of grandfathers of power pop, but they can still rock too. But they kind of, like, when they were coming out, they were sort of like hyped as the next Nirvana or something, which is kind of a kiss of death. And then they were kind of thought to be sort of a flavor of the month. And then in the late 90s, everyone liked them again, but they never reached the popularity that the hype was suggesting they might reach. But they definitely have a lot of fans, and they definitely have a lot of great music. They've been a really consistent band, and I always lamely, when I was a teenager, described them as the Beatles, but crunchier with, like, guitars. So like a grunge Beatles almost. And it kind of feels like if the Beatles were born 20 years later, maybe they would sound like Sloan. I don't know. But the thing about Sloan is they have four amazing songwriters in the group. Not just, two and then one more in the later years. That's George. Not to slag Ringo. I love Ringo, but he's not exactly a writer, and he doesn't write any of the great songs that he sang, like, with a little help from my friends. Anyway, barring that, there's 12 studio albums here, and 3 EPs I'm gonna do. I'm not doing the live recorded at a party or whatever it's called, because even though a lot of live albums are cheat live albums, that one's quite the cheat. Like, that's just them in the studio with, like, a bunch of, fanfare kind of phoned in or edited in or whatever you want to say. So that one doesn't even really count, and I've only heard it once. I don't own it. Maybe when they release the 13th LP, I'll try to listen again, and I'll put it in the ranking. The bottom 3, I don't own any of these. I would love to have physical copies of these. Number 15 is going to be Hit and Run, which to me did just sound like a bunch of offshoots of that era of Sloan, and I didn't like it as much as most people. It did just sound like cast-offs from that era, which it was. So, but a lot of groups, they have great B-sides, and I wouldn't say this is Sloan at their best anyway. Number 14 is going to be Hardcore EP, which really, it's so brief that it should just be a single. And this is obviously Sloan and Patrick in particular showing his hardcore fandom. Like, he loves go figure with the name, but he loves, Minor Threat and stuff like that, probably Fugazi, listening to those old kind of bands, hardcore punk, and that's really cool, and they do it quite well, but it's too short, and it should just be a single. It's only like 2 songs, and they're over like that. But yeah, Jenny's really cool. They're both cool. But the site I was on said this is an EP, so I'm like, okay, I guess it's an EP. I always thought it was a single, but would love to have a copy of that. And I love the album cover, how it's kind of a tribute to, the hardcore scene. 13 is Peppermint EP, which was the first thing they ever did, and these are actually good B-sides. They didn't make the Smeared album. I believe it came out before the Smeared album, but it's from that ilk, from that era, and the version of Underwhelmed is completely different than the one on Smeared. It's a lot more slowed down and not like radio ready, and it's interesting for that. I do like it, and it does seem like the kind of thing I would like more than the polished LP version, but that LP version is so catchy and has such a good drive to it. And I've said before that it might be my favorite Sloan song. It's definitely top 5, and it's my favorite Chris song, which is saying a lot. He wrote a lot of good ones for the band. So finally, onto the studio LPs. I didn't do that intentionally, but the EPs are going to be separate from the studio LPs. Number 12, Action Packed. And it definitely is. It's kind of straight to the point. It doesn't have the Andrew songs on there. It's, you know, mostly just Chris and Patrick led material. This one, of course, had Rest of My Life on it, which was a huge hit. A song that was so overplayed that I hated it growing up. And it wasn't until I started seeing them in concert that I thought, okay, this is probably my least favorite Sloan single, or my second least favorite, but it's good. And it's fun to sing along with. And the part that I didn't like when I was a teenager, the part where it goes, I know that I'll be living in Canada. I thought, that is so corny, I hate that. But when you're, you know, you had a beer or two and you're in the crowd and you're singing along, it's fun and it's a good song. But it's not the best song on here. Nothing Lasts Forever anymore, that one's great. Give Me That. Live On, the other single, which did okay on radio. I don't think it had a video, so very little fanfare, but that's probably my favorite one on here. And they do that one live sometimes still. Number 11 is going to be 12, if that makes any sense. And this does seem a little low for this newest entry in the Sloan catalog. And this is a great album. So, testament to how much I like Sloan, I guess. It's definitely more power poppy, even more so than stuff like the Double Cross. They've definitely set into this more poppy sound, less rock. It does still rock, though. Right to Rome is a good rock song. 44 Teenagers is just, you know, a classic Andrew song. I love Andrew's stuff in the group. And Have Faith is definitely a highlight. I am such a sucker for the Patrick songs. Patrick and Andrew, those are my favorite Sloan members. I know you shouldn't rank members, because I love all 4 guys. They're great. Watching them live is just amazing. But I digress. Number, 10 is going to be Commonwealth. I actually really liked this one when it came out, but I will say Jay's songs and Chris's are probably kind of my least favorite of any era, like as a grouping. But there's nothing really bad, it's just they're kind of decent. But I think that the highly experimental fourth side, if this was an LP, Andrew's 48 Portraits, I think that's my favorite. And it's kind of cool to see Sloan be this experimental, I will say. Take It Easy's cool. Under a Bad Sign's cool. Kind of has a punky flair to it almost, which is not something you would say for Sloan very often. And Keep Swinging Downtown, which I believe was the single. By now, like, by the point this record came out, I wasn't really sure what was a single anymore or not. It was very, you know, we were entering the streaming era, and there was so little fanfare for singles and radio singles and all that. Number 9 is going to be Pretty Together. And this was huge when it came out because of If It Feels Good, Do It, which, as overplayed as it was, is still a great song. Sometimes you'll hear it at sporting events. They always have a call and response thing when they play it live now, where they make the audience go, Sloan, and the song's kind of more dragged out live, which, in a good way. The Other Man was the other single, and that was huge at the time too, up here in Canada. Really, this is kind of like action-packed in a way. It's a little more kind of smooth and refined, but I do think it's the stronger album, obviously, because it's number 9 instead of 12. But, you know, they're both good, so. Double Cross is going to be number 8. And I think I kind of fell out of my Sloan fandom a little bit by the time this came out. This and Parallel Play, because by the time 12 came out, I was like, I'm missing a couple Sloan records. I gotta double back and get these. Which I think I had seen them live in that time, and I definitely enjoyed them performing Unkind. Yeah, again, a Patrick song is my favorite off a Sloan record. Go figure. Yeah, this is a great record. It seems like a little bit of a weaker version of Parallel Play, but again, just like the action-packed versus Pretty Together, like, it's still a great record. You can't really go wrong. It's good power pop, which I've said too much to a lot of these, but it's true. You know, Sloan kind of take the best of the Beatles and the best of the Cars and the best of all this kind of stuff and make it their own and add their own unique songwriting to the sound, and I love that a lot. So Parallel Plays next. I think I'm kind of ranking this higher than most people would. A lot of people don't seem to like this one that much. It might be a little quirkier than they were used to. I don't know. It came off, Never Hear the End of It, though, which was the most excessive one, and would have been a double album in the LP age, and was just packed to the brim with material. And I feel like most people like that one, but I feel like a lot of people that don't like double albums or excessive albums, even though they had enough material, in my opinion, would like this more refined version. But, I guess I could be wrong, because a lot of people rank this one a little lower. But yeah, there's no lowlights, and I like Cheap Champagne, which is one that I feel people don't like. Number 6, and this might be a little lower than a lot of people would put it. A lot of people, this might be one of their favorites, and it's packed to the brim with stuff. There's 30 songs on this. So it all fits on a CD, but if it was LP, nope. And I will say, this is probably one of the better covers. Like, Sloan have their cute little aesthetic where all 4 of them are always on the covers. But, if you dial it back and don't think of it from a fan standpoint, you kind of have to say, a lot of their covers aren't very good, but as an aesthetic, it works. But this one's actually one that I think does work on its own, like not within the Sloan canon. And, this one, when it came out, I was all over this one. And, with 30 songs, there are some ones that are going to be a little weaker. But really, they all flow in and out, and it's all just like one track. Like, you can't really get up and press skip, or you're not really listening to the album properly. But, if you do take off some for the playlist or the greatest hits, if they ever had a volume 2, there's tons of songs here that I, love when they pull out live. Flying High Again's a great intro. I've Gotta Try is amazing. And I wish that would have been a hit single. It was the 3rd single, and it kind of just petered out. That's one of my favorites. And I even like the whistling in it. Whistling with pop songs, sometimes I like it, and sometimes it drives me absolutely crazy, like Young Folks, and even Pumped Up Kicks, I think they whistle in, and ugh. Ill Placed Trust, again, a Patrick song. Ill Placed Trust and I've Gotta Try are probably my favorite ones on here. There's a lot of songs that are only about a minute, like I Can't Sleep. It's just a blast of power, and then it's over. And you kind of think, that was good, I want more. But the only way you'll get more is if you press repeat, because they're very short songs, most of them. There's only a couple that I think exceed, like, the 3.5 minute mark. That's how you get 30 songs on your record there. Number 5, Navy Blues, and I saw this one performed live very close to, when COVID was about to start, like a few months prior. And it was great to see this one performed front to back. It definitely made me appreciate the album more, because I had this one pretty early on. I had a banged up used copy. And I always liked She Says What She Means, Come On, Come On, which is a Jay song, Jay Ferguson. Singing Ships is awesome. Money City Maniacs is a huge hit. That song was huge when it came out, and it's still played at, like, it seems like every time I go to a hockey game this is played. Chester the Molester, that one maybe doesn't work too well, but the rest is just classic. And even though that one's a little cringy, it's fine, I guess. I mean, when I was there live, I didn't go, ooh, this one. It's like, okay, I'll listen to it. And then number 4 is going to be Between the Bridges. This was probably the album where I became aware of Sloan, who they were. Like, I definitely heard them in, like, 98 and that, because so many of their big songs were getting played, like The Good in Everyone, Money City Maniacs, stuff like that, Coax Me. But then it was this album cycle where I remember the debut of the video, Losing California, and I remember hearing them on the radio and the DJ saying that was Sloan. And I'm surprised I didn't get into them sooner because, you know, this album cycle came and went, and I liked Losing California a lot, but I didn't go out and buy it. I didn't become a Sloan fan right away. It wasn't until like 5 years later, to be honest with you. And Sensory Deprivation, oh my god, when they play this live, it is one of the best live songs ever. Not just for Sloan, like, it's one of the best live songs ever. There's so much passion and you know, fiery musicianship and power, and you're going, for Sloan, do they really rock out? Yes, they do. And yeah, I saw them do that one at a nightclub, and they just frickin' I almost said something else, but they blew the roof off the dump with that one. That is one of my favorite Sloan tunes. And I believe it's penned by Andrew, and most of the lead vocals are him, but you can hear everyone. It's a very collaborative Sloan song. So number 3 is the debut, Smeared. And this, of course, is a little louder, a little more shoegaze influenced almost. They would really refine the sound and just, you know, two and a half years later do something quite different. But, you know, Underwhelmed is one of my favorite Sloan songs of all time. I think that helps this one get so high, but I just like how noisy this is and of its time. You know, it definitely sounds like a record from 91. 500 Up is just an amazing single. So catchy, but, you know, loud enough. It's almost like Sonic Youth meets something really catchy like the Beatles. Raspberry's cool. I Am the Cancer is amazing. Yeah. The only thing about this album is I wish Ragdoll made the album, because that song is better than all but 3 of these songs, in my opinion. A lot of people go, no it isn't. This album's a classic without Ragdoll. We don't need Ragdoll, but I love that song, and I wish it made the record. Number 2, and for some reason, and I almost forgot about this, I only have a promotional copy of this. But all the songs are there, so Twice Removed. And I feel if I ever upgraded, I wouldn't get the CD anyway. I would go get the LP of Twice Removed. Twice Removed has many times been voted by, I guess it was Chart Attack or one of those magazines, as the best album of all time, or the best Canadian album of all time. And I remember knowing that before I heard the album, and all that hype, by the time I got to it, I thought, it's alright. But, you know, in hindsight, it's actually a lot better than just alright. It's a great record, and, you know, this one, of course, had Coax Me on it, and, is it Snowsuit Sound? Anyway, I saw this one performed front to back as well, and, yeah, it's an absolutely stellar record, and, it was not of its time, though. Kids did not want to see, you know, Sloan do their kind of power pop and 60s influence and singing of, you know, drinking concentrated OJ or whatever. They did not want that. It did not go with, you know, what was going on in the scene and the Smashing Pumpkins and In Utero and stuff like that coming out. Kids listening to Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. People did not have the time of day for this, and it almost broke up the band. I don't think it sold too well, but more and more as the decade went on, people started to realize this record is great, and, you know, Sloan, you know, came back in 96 and did the next record, which saved them, and, you know, the story has a happy ending, but, yeah, I think that they almost broke up after their second album. Imagine how much great stuff we wouldn't have got, though I'm sure they would have all gone and played in other bands, and you know, a lot of the members have anyway, but, you know, it's not the same without Sloan. Let's be honest. Number 1 is going to be One Chord to Another, and this one's kind of funny because when I was discovering Sloan, this was one of my lesser favorites. And now I can't really see why. I always like the singles off it. Everything You've Done Wrong is great. Good in Everyone, of course, it's so brief and it rocks so hard. I really liked that one as a kid. G Turns to D is cool. A-Side Wins. Junior Panthers is great. Anyone Who's Anyone. Anyone Who's Anyone is fantastic, but that song cranks it up to 11 when you hear it live, and it's almost hard to go back. It just, ooh. I'm trying not to swear. I'm getting so excited because thinking of seeing these guys live, you know, I've seen them like 4 times or 5 times, and I can't wait for everything to be over and hopefully Sloan coming back. And yeah, let's get rid of this pandemic and all that. 400 Meters is incredible. Another Andrew song, of course. Yeah, so that's Sloan. That's the top. Well, ranking the 15, top 15 of 15. Ranking the 15 Sloan studio recordings, studio albums, and EPs. Thanks so much for watching. Tell me your favorite Sloan albums, or you could do the ranking yourself too, and tell me how off I am. But yeah, don't leave those lame comments that go, you know, you think that's better than that, you're so wrong. If you can leave it like, I like this, and, you know, have a subjective conversation, right? But yeah, thanks for all the, you know, comments while I was away from YouTube, and all the new subscribers that I noticed. Yeah, and we'll come back with another ranking video next week, and a couple other videos too. So thanks so much for watching. Peace out, everyone.